Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Agrible, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, let's take a look at the globe. Maps in the background represent the last 30 days. On top, it's temperature anomalies, and on bottom, it's precipitation. And I want to start off this forecast by kind of telling you the things I'm going to be talking about in this video. So first, we're going to have a pretty big pattern breakdown, and we've been discussing this now for 10 days. It is here. Let's discuss what that means. We did just get some fresh snow right here across Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, on top of the big event we had last time. We need to talk about what that means. Where we have had issues with drought here, where we grow a lot of hard red winter wheat, we got rains coming in this weekend, but there are issues with that rain. There's been a bit of a model turn we have to discuss. We'll also at the very end discuss how we've been dry in parts of Saskatchewan, parts of Manitoba, and Ontario, because of course we're watching out for planting up here as well. We have some big rains coming into Argentina, but it might be a little bit too much rain too late. We'll talk about how dry it's been in southern Brazil, but it's been great weather in parts of Mato Grosso. And just to kind of point a couple things out here, over in China, we've had a pretty warm spring so far, with only a little bit of dryness here, kind of in the coastal regions of southeast China. We're waiting on something called the Mei-Yu front to come through, which is kind of a monsoonal thing that'll come through and bring a lot of precipitation to this area. But they've actually started off spring relatively warm through much of China. And if you've not seen this yet, we've had quite a bit of very, very dry conditions in parts of Australia. So these are kind of some global things we're going to be talking about in this video. And so let's go ahead and get things started. First, we just had another round of some pretty heavy snows that went through parts of Nebraska, parts of South Dakota, and then really right here on the border of Iowa, Minnesota, and then southern Wisconsin. In fact, my map ended kind of early in the evening on Wednesday, but it certainly stretched across parts of southern Wisconsin. So we just dumped a bunch of snow in this area. And as we do, we need to take a look and see how things compare right now to last year. So I want to show you something. This map was only valid through early in the morning on the 18th. They update these early in the morning each day. So this whole area right in through here just got a whole bunch of more snow put on it. So we're talking about quite a bit more snowfall in that area that's got to all melt away. So when you look at this, this is where we have snow now. This is where we had snow a year ago. And so what I see here is that we certainly have quite a bit of work to do with bringing in some sun, bringing in some warmer conditions over the coming days to melt this down. It's going to cause a bit of a soil saturation problem in the near term, which means we're just going to continue to delay planting in northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, southern Wisconsin, of course, parts of Nebraska and the Dakotas as we move forward. Certainly not the same as last year. So first thing to be on the lookout for. The second thing, this is really important, especially for winter wheat. You see, what we're looking at here is we're looking at two different models, the two best performing U.S. models. I have the NAM model on top and the GFS model on bottom. First things first, both models over the last 3 days have trended toward a drier system coming out of the Four Corners area, moving into western Kansas, western Oklahoma, northern Texas. Both the NAM and the European model don't bring very much precipitation down here toward Lubbock, but they've been drying this out, bringing maybe only a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch of rainfall to western Kansas, western Oklahoma, and northern Texas. Now, the GFS model has been wetter a little bit farther to the west, but this is the outlier. This is the outlier model between the three of these. Where they do all agree is in central Oklahoma and northeastern Texas. They're bringing quite a bit of precipitation into that area. Now, by the way, if you kind of come back up here, we are dealing with some wetter weather here to start off the week in parts of Indiana, getting over into Ohio and Pennsylvania. Not too much, but this, of course, is the snow that was moving through late on Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. Okay, European model, check it out. We see a very similar pattern to the regions I just talked about, stretching basically from Iowa, getting into southern Wisconsin, then back over here into the far eastern part of the Corn Belt. But look, if we come back over to our forecast here for that next system, do you see how parts of western Kansas, eastern Colorado, western Oklahoma, and the northern part of the panhandle of Texas are relatively dry. We're in here seeing precipitation amounts generally trying to get to about a ½ inch, but not what we saw earlier in the week, which was some of these locations getting over an inch. But the models do agree that when you get back into central Oklahoma, we're talking about quite a bit of precipitation here. But I'm going to talk with you about a couple of reasons why we've seen this downward trend. So check this out. This is what the flow is going to look like Friday evening as this system really gets going. Now, if we want to see big rains here in parts of Texas and Oklahoma, we need to really what we call open up the Gulf, bring in 60-degree dew point temperatures all the way up here into parts of Kansas. And we're just not doing that. And here's why. It's all in the flow. You see, the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico is coming through southern Texas first, then goes right up along the dry line before it gets up into here where we need it. That's a long fetch running over some pretty dry ground. You see, ideally I want it coming right off the Gulf, straight through like San Antonio, straight through Houston, this area, going right into a low like this. Instead, the air that's feeding into the low on the eastern side and northern side, it's coming from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, flowing across the lower Mississippi River Valley, not coming out of the Gulf, going just like this into that low. So we're only getting 40-degree dew points, not 60, and that's going to limit the moisture that we're going to have to work with and keep our precipitation amounts a little bit lighter than we want. Now, it's still going to rain, but it's just not the amount that we would like to see. Okay, so we kind of get going with our forecast here. Let's get past there. There we go. This gets us into 7 p.m. Thursday. So that first system moves out, brings a little bit of precip here to the eastern Corn Belt, and then moves to the northeast. Thursday, for the most part, is a relatively benign and dry day, but here's our next system coming through. So this is now getting into 1 p.m. Friday. This is 7 p.m. Friday, and then getting into the early morning hours of Saturday. So that's our cutoff low. Remember, the GFS is a bit of a wet bias out of this one. Moves the thing on through eastern Oklahoma. All models agree on this by the time we get into Saturday. For those of you in Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and then points back to the north and west of there, thankfully this system dips south. It does not come through and bring us more precipitation. So watch this. It goes right on down through the cotton and peanut belt rather than coming right in through the corn belt. We do have another system we're watching early next week. So this system is going to be coming through by the time we get into Monday, Tuesday, into the northern plains. But look, do you see how we don't see blues on my map? We've got enough of a rebounding in temperatures that this next system coming through could be bringing all rain here early next week on late Monday into early Tuesday. And that's just the first of a couple systems we're going to be watching. So if you live in Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, our next chance for precipitation is after the weekend. We got several dry days coming up, and our temperatures are going to be climbing back up into the 50s and approaching 60s by the weekend. We'll take a look at that in a few moments. The next big system we're going to have to be on the lookout for is kind of so far out that I don't have a ton of trust in this. We are now out, this is past a week here. We're looking way out here toward next Thursday, Friday. We got a low pressure system that's going to try to kick off in Texas. It's going to kind of team up with the flow of the jet stream to bring another big low here. Possibly this is more than a week out. This is about 9 to 10 days out. Watch it all kind of in motion here. This big system right here at the very end. But do see this. Everything is green. We don't see the big blues on the back side, and that, oh my gosh, I've been waiting so long to tell you that the chances of snow are just dwindling with time, and this is good, but it does look to be wet. What does it all mean when we kind of boil all this down? Well, let's take a look at the pattern. We'll look again at that longer-term precipitation forecast and kind of put a better picture together, all of it. First thing first, look at the bottom map. This has been the pattern we've been stuck in that has really prevented us from breaking away from the colder weather. This is your last 30 days looking at temperature anomalies. What we've had is, over the last 30 days, we've had a persistent deep trough sitting here over the Hudson Bay, and that's been complements of this big ridge that's built just to the west of Alaska, east of Russia, here in the Bering Sea. So the ridge has allowed warmth in this area. We displaced that warm air toward the North Pole. Cold air has got to come out of the North Pole. Where's it been going? North America. Now, this is what we're dealing with in the flow of our jet stream. So that was our pattern that was blocked up. As we move forward, look at this. See this nice ridge toward the end of the week here? This brings in warmer conditions right where we need them to melt some of that snow away right here in the middle part of the country. Here's our cutoff low that's kind of coming through here, and as it slowly moves through, that's our precipitation maker Friday into Saturday in the hard red winter wheat area, which we just discussed. That low moves toward the south and east, but what I want you to see is, notice this. Even though it kind of brings in a little bit cooler air starting the next week, we don't have the mega trough sitting here over the Hudson Bay. And look, Here in the Pacific, in the North Pacific, west of Alaska, east of Russia, we've got a trough. And that's important. This means two things. This means possibly downstream as we get through the beginning of May, maybe an active weather pattern here in the central states. But what it does mean is we've now removed that feature that was shoving a bunch of warm air toward the North Pole, displacing that cold air over the Corn Belt. I love to say that the pattern is broken down, and that's what we can see here. All right, you do notice this though. The pattern does stay active, which means we're going to be seeing multiple chances at getting, basically storm systems moving through. So overall, not this long 10, 12, 15-day dry stretch, but at least it's not, it's broken out of that pattern. Okay, let's look at temperatures. I know it's kind of hard to see, but I just want you to squint your eyes and look at this top row of maps. Top row here, next 6 days in terms of high temperatures, bottom row low temperatures. Look at the pattern on low temperatures. We had a big area below freezing. This is starting us off on Thursday morning. Friday, still occupying this area with some cold temperatures. The snow is really helping in keeping it cold. But look at this. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Do you see how the below freezing air retreats north? Look at the temperatures rebounding. This again is Thursday. Friday's going to be cool. You see the cooler air here where we still got some snow, but look at this. Getting into Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we start to see the warm-up happening. So this is the pattern shift we've been discussing, and check it out in the animation in the bottom. We've been doing this quite a bit where we're stepping through a week at a time, looking at days 1 through 7 all put together, day 2 through 8, and so on and so forth out to day 16. And I got some good news for you. Look at the blues finally fade away. Now notice this, we're not bringing in big time warmth, but where I record my videos here near Champaign, Illinois, this means we might see average temperatures, which are about low 60s, 65 this time of year, and I could not be happier to see that. This means when we do get some drier weather, planters will be rolling, and they'll be rolling hard getting this stuff done. What does that drier weather look like? Well, here's your next 5 days. Now, this is the precipitation late when I'm recording this video on Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, so that's out. We see across Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, getting up into Minnesota, getting up in eastern parts of the Dakotas. This area, even southern Wisconsin, after it goes through, and Michigan, is drier over the next 5 days. Where is it wet? Where that cutoff low goes. So you can see it starts here and moves its way toward the southeast through the weekend and start of next week. So with the warmer weather, you're going to see a lot of planting action going on in this area. It's not going to be hot, but it's at least going to be drying out and a little bit, closer to average in terms of temperatures. Okay, to show you what the precipitation anomalies look like, remember these colors represent drier, these colors represent warmer. Stepping through a week at a time, day 1 through 7, day 2 through 8, just like we just discussed. Here we go. See the drier pattern in through here? Here's our next system coming through, but overall, we don't see major wet anomalies in this area. Now, is it still active? Yes, which means your planting windows are going to be short. They're not going to be, 10, 12 days long, at least as we get into the beginning of May, but it's at least better than what we've seen recently. Okay. Globally, let's take a look at a few different things here. I want to take your attention from the U.S. up here down to South America. Mato Grosso first, safrinha corn in this area. What we're seeing right now is we're really pretty darn close to average in terms of precipitation from the GFS model. Same thing from the ECMWF or the European model. Where it's really dry right now is in Rio Grande do Sul, getting down to Parna and parts of Paraguay and Rio Grande do Sul, Mato Grosso do Sul to Rio Grande do Sul. This area, very dry moving forward, so this has a bigger impact on the crops that we're still working on here. In Argentina and Uruguay, this whole area is expected to get a lot of precipitation over the next 10 days, but this is too much rain too late. This will more than likely affect harvest. And I want to talk briefly here as we wrap up this video about Canada. So we look in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, so this area through here. Last 30 days, we've seen a dry bias in this area, so they need to be bringing up their soil mush with some precipitation. Unfortunately, as we kind of look longer term, this area does tend to carry in both the US model, so the GFS, and in the ECMWF, which is what I'm showing you, a bit of a dry bias moving forward. And while we're trying to break out of this colder weather, we don't do so quite as quickly in that area as we do points further to the south. So we're going to keep a close eye on what's going on here in southern Canada as we move forward, as they start to plant their corn and soybeans as well. Right now, though, we got a bit of a dry bias in this area that we got to break down with some decent precipitation precipitation events as we move into the month of May. So that was a lot to look at here, but hopefully this gives you some broader perspective on bigger features I'm watching, and I hope you found it useful. I hope you look forward also to our video coming out on early Monday morning, next Monday, and I hope you have a good remainder of the week, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. So with that, we'll wrap up this video. We hope you look forward to Agrible's next ag forecast coming out at 5 a.m. on Monday morning. Head to agrible.com to learn how you can get real-time agronomic and sustainability insights all at the touch of a button. Look forward to talking again after the weekend.